to Exposing Workplace Bullying, where we pull back the curtain and have real conversations about workplace abuse. This is episode 29, Ground Control. I'm your host, Dr. Jan Kircher. When your daily life includes workplace abuse, it's chaotic, to say the least. Things shift pretty quickly, from normal to tense to full-on bullying. And that cycle can repeat multiple times a day. It's exhausting to live through, and it's unsettling to witness. For me, it wasn't just happening to me. I watched it happen to my colleagues too. There's one person who still stands out. She was singled out and attacked relentlessly. In meetings, I saw what it was doing to her in real time. She came in tense, already fearful. And once the bullying started, her face would change. The light would drain from her eyes. Her shoulders would drop. Her body would fold inward. She'd try to speak and be interrupted, called names, cut off mid-sentence. Her voice would start to shake. She'd brace herself against the table and say, "I didn't do that. That's not true. I submitted that report on time and you know it." You could see the frustration and the pain. The more she defended herself, the worse it got. That's what bullying does. The pressure keeps building. And sometimes you just can't manage it and keep it together. It happened to me on more than one occasion. Even though I tried to stay calm, I didn't always succeed. Sometimes the pressure built faster than I could stop it, and words slipped out of my mouth before I could rein them in. Other times, I simply stopped responding. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but out of self-preservation. I figured, why bother when the criticism and the gaslighting was just going to keep coming? What's the point? Don't get me wrong. I tried my best to keep my feet planted on the ground and keep myself in check. But sometimes I just couldn't do it. That's because workplace bullying isn't something you calmly handle. It's engineered to provoke. A bully wants a reaction, and they push as hard as they can until they get it. In those moments, maintaining composure takes far more effort than people realize. When you're being provoked, criticized, or watching reality get rewritten, often in front of others, holding the line emotionally is hard under sustained pressure. It can feel damn near impossible, but it's necessary for your sake. That's where ground control comes in. Ground control means you are in control of you. You stay in control emotionally. You're grounded under pressure, and you contain the emotional impact of the bullying so it doesn't embed itself and cause you more damage over time. It isn't about denying what's happening. It's about keeping you safe and protected. In other words, Bob doesn't get access to you or your nervous system. Here's how you do that. You maintain control and emotionally disconnect from the bullying. Control begins with grounding, regulating yourself under pressure when you're being bullied. You stay anchored in yourself as things escalate. Your feet are on the floor. Your breathing is steady. You're present, but you're not absorbing what's being thrown at you. For me, I'd count. I'd make a grocery list in my head, or I'd run through song lyrics. Anything that kept me steady and kept it from getting to me. I wasn't checking out, I was filtering. That's what you're doing here too. You're in that moment, being bullied, focused on anchoring yourself. When something real about work comes up, you catch it. You're not hanging on every word the bully is saying. You're listening, focused in for work, and letting the rest slide off you without engaging. The personal digs, the tone, the bait, the gaslighting, that doesn't get access. It isn't true anyway, so don't give it any space. Just let it go. Now, that's easy for me to say. It's really hard to do. You're used to taking in what Bob says. You react and try to make sense of it. You take it in, and it changes how you think, how you respond, how you carry yourself. For some, it even starts to feel true. That didn't happen by accident. It's by design. But that's what you're breaking away from here. Breaking that habit is part of ground control. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and practice, and it looks different for everyone. What works for me might not work for you. The point isn't how you do it. The point is finding something that keeps your attention off the bullying and anchored in yourself. But here's the challenging part. When you stay grounded and a bully stops getting the reaction they want, they usually don't back off. They push harder. The pressure increases. The tone sharpens. The tactics shift and become more threatening and hurtful. That moment can make you question everything. Is this working? Did I just make it worse? Should I say anything? What was Jan talking about? Now, your instinct here might be to re-engage, to explain, correct, or defend yourself, or even to stop staying grounded. That's exactly what pulls you out of control. This is where containment matters. You keep using the grounding techniques. You stay regulated emotionally under pressure. Staying contained doesn't mean doing nothing. It means holding your line, keeping that emotional disconnect intact as the pressure ramps up. That's where ground control is truly tested. It either holds or it doesn't. When it doesn't, you adjust and recalibrate. For me, when the bullying escalated, I used grounding techniques that took more concentration. What I used depended on the situation. Sometimes I'd count backward from 100 to keep my mind focused on the numbers. Other times, I relied on physical cues, like making a fist and gently pressing my nails into my palm. Not to hurt myself, just enough sensation to pull my attention back into my body and away from the bullying. You'll probably need more than one grounding technique. Use whatever keeps you anchored. That's the point. It's better to have more than you need than not enough when it counts. Now, all of this sounds good. In fact, it sounds great. But bullying isn't predictable. So, how do you stay grounded when the pressure hits? This is extremely challenging. But you're already engaging in threat assessment, and that gives you an advantage. You have a sense of what you're walking into and where the risks are, so you can plan ahead. That's exactly what I did when I knew I was going into a high-threat encounter. I prepared myself and built myself up internally. Sometimes I'd listen to some empowering music. Then, during the encounter, when things got worse, instead of getting pulled into the pressure, I stayed anchored. I wrote notes about what I wanted to say. I slowed my breathing. Nothing obvious, just enough to keep myself grounded and focused. So when I did have to speak, I was in control. I made sure it stayed about work. I said what I needed, no more. I learned from my dad that in moments like these, less is more. I did my best to keep my voice steady, just a normal tone. Sometimes I'd even lower it on purpose. I'll be honest, I hoped it would lower their tone, but it never did. It helped me stay in control, and that was the point. Even when I managed to stay grounded and keep my composure in the moment, the interaction didn't always end when the meeting did. That's when it would move into my head, replaying what was said, wondering how it sounded, and questioning whether I handled it right. Because ground control isn't just what you do in the moment. It's what you refuse to carry afterward. You contain the damage. You don't let it move into your head, your body, or your emotional space. This isn't about dismissing what happened. It's about holding a boundary so the experience doesn't take over emotionally. Taking the bullying home with you, replaying it, thinking about it, anticipating the next round often becomes automatic. Once it's over, continuing it in your head doesn't help or protect you. It keeps your nervous system tied to the abuse long after the interaction has ended. Ground control is about breaking that habit and not taking the bullying personally, professionally, or letting it lodge in your emotional life. The bullying doesn't get unlimited access to you. It doesn't follow you home. You can turn it off. That's the part of ground control that didn't come naturally for me. I tend to overthink, and I carried the bullying with me far beyond the moment. It didn't just affect how I felt. I started to believe they were right. I saw myself the way they saw me, as a troublemaker. But learning to protect myself from absorbing what the bullies did to me didn't happen quickly. It took time, deliberate effort, and conscious practice. Once I understood that, it became clear that the real boundary wasn't the office door. It was internal, and I had to learn how to switch it off. I had to draw a hard line between work and home. Otherwise, Bob would come home with me every night, and I wasn't having that. No, thanks. So I gave myself the car ride home to think about the day and the bullying. Sometimes I took the long way home, but when I pulled into the driveway, that's where it stopped. I was intentional about my thoughts, and when the bullying and the 8 popped in my head, I would say to myself, I don't have to think about that anymore. I don't have to give them any more of my time. Eventually, I didn't bring it home, and the bullying and the bullies stayed where they belonged, at work. Ground control isn't one move. It's a set of practices you build over time. That's why you don't need to do it all at once. Start with one grounding technique. Maybe it's counting. Maybe it's focusing on your breathing or pressing your feet into the floor. Find what works for you and repeat it until it's familiar. Then add another as you need to. You build it gradually, adding pieces as you go. Over time, you have something that works. Not a perfect system, just enough techniques to keep you steady under pressure. Then you find ways to leave Bob at work and disengage from the bullying once you're home. Start with one action that shuts it down. Journal for a few minutes. Go for a walk. Emotional disconnection is central to ground control. It's what helps protect you. The bullying stays at work. It doesn't come with you. That's how you start reducing the traumatic effects of bullying. But you're still being bullied and abused at work. That reality doesn't just disappear. Workplace bullying is always difficult, no matter how skilled you get. Ground control isn't about pretending otherwise. It's about not letting the bullying take more from you than it already has. And part of that is preparation. When you know you're walking into a threat-heavy situation, a risky meeting, a volatile moment, ground control means you don't walk in cold. You walk in with an emotional barrier in place. You revisit what helps you stay grounded. You remind yourself, I've been here before. I know how to get through this. And when the day is over, you leave work at work. That's containment. Keeping the bullying limited to where it belongs and reducing how much damage it does to you emotionally. Threat assessment tells you what kind of risk you're walking into. Ground control keeps you steady and contained under pressure. Together, they're the foundation of workplace self-defense. Next, we get into the moves. What you can actually do when Bob comes at you. We'll start with verbal workplace self-defense. What to say, how to say it, and how to do it without handing your power back to the bully who's trying to provoke you. We'll tackle that and more in episode 30, Verbal Aikido. This podcast is independently funded. Consider supporting at stopbullyculture.com/support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If this episode hits home, check out stopbullyculture.com, where I share tools, resources, and real talk to help you deal with workplace abuse. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Until next time.
They gaslight and plot, play their games. Witness a smile, you're part of the shame. Your boss stays silent, closing the door. How many voices will they ignore? The bully lies, the brave get burned. The office watches, no lessons learned. Your boss hides, truth gets colder. It's time to stop the bullying.